Welcome to Deep Thought. IQ is relative. You know what? It's funny, right? And you get this a lot with, white nationalists, right? As soon as they have some problems or they'll go in like black spaces or they'll comment and say, well, they always talking about IQ. And it's like, well, the blacks' IQs are 15 points lower than whites and all that, right? And and you even get some black folks who will talk about IQ and all that, And to me, it's a dumbass argument. I don't even get into it. Let me tell y'all a story, right? It was a funny thing. To me, it was hilarious, right? I remember when there was a big IQ craze back in like 1995. Because something always pop up, right? Now I'm working in this government office, right? Right, and I remember I think it was somebody in there who got like some booklet that was like an IQ test, right? And they made copies of it and everything. And now this was mostly whites in here, right? Now I remember I took the thing, right? Got like a 126, right? And I take that with a grain of salt. I'm like, oh, my IQ is 126. I'm like, whatever. Because the reason why I take it with a grain of salt, I took the self-test, and it was like, you got 30 minutes to deal with it. When I took it, I was like, I had a TV on, I had a Budweiser in my hand. And I was just like, something happened on the TV, like, oh. Laughing at that. We got 126 and stuff. I took it back to work. I say, hey, 126. And then this other white guy got a 126. But there was this one. He spent maybe an hour and a half of government time working on it. And I mean, it was really perplexing him, right? And this was a guy who was like relatively he was on some little like slick racist shit. It was ironic because he was also on some gay shit too, right? But he was on some little racist shit. So he was up there. I mean, he was straining with it, and I'm thinking to myself, dude, you're like a genius with like the computers and all of this, because that's kind of what he did. It's like, why are you worrying about this? Like another white guy got like the same score I did, right? And he was like, he just laughing about it. He was like, man, this is like, okay, this is cute, whatever. And my point is, I don't know what that guy got, don't really care, the one who was struggling with it, right? But I'm like, dude, first of all, you making more money than most people in the office. You could probably hack NASA, just like on a computer. It's like, why are you tripping with this? They don't, look. A lot of people making a big deal about that static thing, right? Which only tests like a few traits within a human being, within a person, right? But going through life, that score on a test don't mean anything. I'm going to tell you why. Because to get through life, okay, you can sit still. If you sit still, right, you take that test, you might be able to do it. But make it some fun. Could you take that same test if you had a screaming baby? Or you could take that test and somebody call you up and say one of your favorite relatives died. Right? Or could you take that test after you got screaming baby, somebody call you and say your relative died, and you just got notice that you're about to be laid off on your job? I guarantee your score is different. And my point is this. Intelligence is important to get through life. But it is relative. Intelligent for what? Right? There was a story I read in Think and Grow Rich. Apparently some newspaper had called Henry Ford stupid. And he sued them. Right? And in order to prove their case, they got him in there and they would ask him questions like about American history or something, right? And, they were like, well, how many troops did the British send over for the Revolutionary War? And, Henry Ford's answer was reportedly more troops came over than went back. So it was like, and then at one point, Henry Ford said, look, if there's something I need to know, I'm not about the business of making cars. If there's something I need to know about some subject, I have a button on my chair I push and somebody will come in and tell me. Right? And I was just like, he didn't need to know that. It's like sometimes we get caught up in information. Oh, do you know this? You know that, right? It's like, no. You might have somebody who could barely, I'll give you a great example. I knew this guy because, Rom had 1,000 jobs when I was working at this retail place, right? It was a big department store, right? And it was funny. I had this one guy. He was a manager. It was painful to listen to him speak. He had a deep Southern accent, right? So it was painful to listen to him speak, right? Right, especially if he's trying to speak official. Like he was a manager though, and if he did like store meeting or something, in those big department stores they usually have a big team meeting or something. And if he had to conduct it, I was like, oh, right. He was totally computer illiterate. Totally. I mean, if he had to do something on a computer, he had to find something else, right? Somebody else, right? So you would think, okay, why is this guy a manager? And this dude could sell whatever. This dude was a master salesman. Because, he was a manager of the men's department at this particular store, right? And I'll never forget, this one dude came in, just wanted to get an inexpensive blazer, right? Just that's all he wanted to get, right? After this salesman who, you had to strain to understand what he was saying sometimes. This salesman who was totally computer illiterate. After this salesman got through, this guy came in to spend less than $100, ended up spending $1,500. Because the salesman was able, he got him outfits, neckties, shoes. This guy walked out with 3 outfits, right? This guy made his money just selling. This was a master salesman. Now somebody would say, oh, he's bad on a computer. Oh, he's inarticulate. But he was articulate enough to sell. That's all he needed to be. See, IQ and intelligence is relative to what you need to do in life, right? That's it. Like you could be that type of person who who can't read well, right? You can be that person who probably didn't do well in math. You're probably a very average student, but you're that social type of person who know how to bring people together, and many jobs are social. Or you that social type of person who could give parties or something and bring people together. Like I knew this real beautiful woman, right? Real beautiful. I mean, she got to be in her late 40s now, maybe even 50s. I don't know how far. You definitely in her 40s, right? And she used to give. In fact, I need to check with her. She still might do some stuff, but I remember because of her social, she knew how to talk to anybody, right? She could give events and have it crowded because of her social intelligence. See, there's different types of intellect, and it's relative. It's just important that you're intelligent enough to do the job. Let me tell you another story when I was working retail, right? Because I was kind of in a supervisory position, right? I had this one guy who worked under me, right? And he's probably one of the worst workers I ever had. Not in terms of being lazy. He worked hard enough. I mean, he wasn't lazy at all, far from it. But one of the worst workers I've ever had, right? Reason why, he was literally a rocket scientist. Literally. I mean, this dude, what he do for a living? He was a rocket scientist, you know. But apparently there was something wherever he worked, and so he needed a little bit of money. This dude was the worst worker because he overthought everything. Just like retail. You get paid a lot of money to fold a shirt correctly. That's all you need to do. Sometimes, but thing is, yes, he had that intellect to be a rocket scientist, but not that intellect to do this particular job. Now, somebody would say, well, the rocket scientist thing was more important. Well, you could say that, but the thing was, he was still there anyway, and he needed to work. He needed to get that money. If he was actually making money from being a rocket scientist, he wouldn't have been there. So it's relative, and it's a different type of intellect. And that's one thing. See, I've worked in government offices. I've worked around real intellectual types. I've worked in social situations in retail and sales and all of that. It's a different type of intellect. The type of intellect that makes someone good at sales might not make them good at research. So, the IQ thing is very relative. And that's something to think about. That's why I don't trip off of that stuff. People will say, well, I'm smarter and stuff. In fact, there's some people I know with IQs, tested IQs. Like, there's a person I know now, a woman. I shouldn't put her stuff out, but I just want to use this example. There's one of those I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. I know this person is not doing well. Yet had a tested IQ of 160. But is for some reason can't stay on the job. So it's relative. So, people have to just have the intelligence. People have to have the intelligence to work whatever their vocation is. They just need to be smart in that one thing. That's it. Everything else is irrelevant. Everything else is irrelevant. It'd be cool if they well-rounded, but if they, like, you can do the scores or something, but you only doing whatever, what good is it? Right? And I remember, or even having knowledge or information about stuff. There's a lot of people there. You'd be surprised. You talk to a lot of people not doing well, but you find out they got a lot of information. All right. So that's it. It's relative. That's relative. That's why I just like, hey, whatever. A person only needs to be good at what they're supposed to do. That's it. And intelligence there. So anyway, like I said, the whole thing is relative. Anyway, that's it for today, y'all. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.